He poured a $900 bottle of Bordeaux down my dress and laughed like it was a joke. The people at the table, investors, executives, hangers-on, laughed too, because that's what people do when the man with money decides cruelty is comedy. But I didn't laugh. I just sat there, drenched in red, my heart cracking quietly under the sound of fake applause. What no one at that table knew, what my husband, Mason, would soon regret not knowing, was that the ink on his $800 million contract belonged to me. He was celebrating a deal I owned. He just didn't know it yet. That night, the ballroom at the Vailton Hotel shimmered like a shrine to excess. Gold chandeliers, glass walls, designer gowns. I'd chosen a simple black silk dress. Quiet, elegant, forgettable, because I learned that invisibility is power. Mason hated that. He liked his women like his whiskey, expensive and loud. "You could have tried harder, babe," he'd said in the limo. "You look like you're going to a funeral." He wasn't wrong. Something was dying tonight. He just didn't know it was his empire. I watched him work the room, all charisma and handshakes. Mason Hart, the man Forbes called Wall Street's golden risk, my husband, my mistake. We met 8 years ago, back when I still believed love could survive ambition. He was the kind of man who made promises sound like plans and lies sound like poetry. I used to think I was lucky. Now I just think I was naive. The deal tonight was everything to him. His firm, Hart and Vale Capital, had spent months chasing it. The buyers were a global tech consortium, Orion Dynamics, rumored to be run by an elusive female executive no one had ever met. They called her the Phantom Executive. That woman was me. I built that empire quietly, piece by piece after my father's death. I'd spent 5 years letting Mason think I was just his supportive stay-at-home wife, while I ran a billion-dollar operation under another name. My father's company, Laratech, had rebranded to Orion right under Mason's nose. I didn't do it for revenge. Not then. I did it for survival. The moment that started my shift from love to strategy, the night Mason told me, "You don't need to understand what I do. You just need to look pretty doing nothing." So I smiled and started doing everything. Back in the ballroom, he was showing off. He always did when he was nervous. The deal was being signed at the head table, under the flash of 100 cameras. Mason's job was tight, his charm rehearsed. I stood behind him, silent, like good wives do in rich rooms. The CEO's legal rep, one of my people, slid the contract forward. Mason signed with a flourish. "To new empires," he said, raising his glass, "and to the mysterious woman behind Orion. I hope she's worth $800 million. The crowd laughed. That's when he turned, his wineglass dripping with arrogance. "To my wife," he added, "who knows nothing about business, but everything about patience." The room tittered. He poured the wine down my front and kissed my cheek like it was affection. I could smell the Bordeaux mixing with perfume and humiliation. The cameras flashed. Every instinct in me screamed to walk out. But instead, I smiled, because women like me don't walk out. We walk through, and we make sure every exit burns behind us. Hours later, after the party, Mason stumbled into our penthouse half drunk and entirely pleased with himself. "You were too quiet tonight," he said, loosening his tie. "You make people uncomfortable when you just stare." "I was thinking," I said. "Dangerous habit." "You humiliated me." He smirked. "Oh, come on. It was a joke. You take everything so damn seriously." I looked at him and thought, you have no idea how serious I'm about to get. He fell asleep before midnight, snoring in the bed we no longer shared in spirit. I went to my study, the only room he never entered because he called it your little library. Inside, I opened my laptop, entered a biometric key, and logged into Orion's secured network. On the dashboard, his deal blinked in green. Contract finalized. I stared at the numbers. $800 million wired, ownership fully transferred. To me. Mason thought he'd sold part of Orion. What he'd really sold was a shell company I created to look like Orion. He'd just funneled $800 million into my control. Revenge, I've learned, doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it just needs good paperwork. The next morning, Mason strutted into the kitchen in his robe, sipping coffee like he owned the sunrise. "The press wants a follow-up interview," he said. "They're calling me the man who tamed the phantom CEO." I looked up from my tablet. "You sure about that word, tamed?" He laughed. "It's branding, baby." I smiled. Branding can burn if you're not careful. He didn't even hear the warning. That afternoon, he left for another meeting, and I called Cassidy, my right hand at Orion. "Phase 1 is complete," I said. "Ready for Phase 2? Ready to wake him up." Cassidy chuckled. "You want the quiet route or the cinematic one?" "Let's make it cinematic." We spent weeks crafting the fall, subtle leaks to the press, quiet whispers in investor circles, strategic missteps that led straight back to him. Every empire needs a villain. I just made sure Mason looked the part. When he started losing partners, he blamed everyone but himself. When the market shifted, he doubled down. And when his name hit the rumor mill tied to insider trading, thanks to a few files I accidentally leaked, he finally began to sweat. By month end, the Heart and Veil logo was sliding down the stock tickers like a sinking ship. And I was still there. His calm, supportive wife, smiling through champagne dinners, watching him unravel. Then came the night of the charity gala, the first rehook of my life. Mason needed that event to clean his public image, and I needed it to bury him properly. I wore a red silk gown this time, not quiet, not invisible. People noticed, even he did. "You look different," he said. "Power suits you," I replied. Halfway through the evening, the head of the financial board approached him. "Mr. Hart, we'd like to schedule a private discussion about the discrepancies in your filings." He blinked. "What discrepancies?" The man handed him a file. He opened it, his face draining of color. Inside were internal transfers, shell accounts, trades under his name, planted months ago by yours truly. Cassidy had made sure every move looked authentic. He stammered something about a misunderstanding, but the damage was done. Cameras caught it all. I sipped my champagne and said softly, "Breathe, Mason. The night's still young." Power feels nothing like I thought it would. It's quieter, colder, like the air before a thunderstorm. You can smell the electricity, but you don't know if it'll strike you or save you. After Forbes dropped that headline, the world treated me like some urban legend turned flesh. Billionaire widow, secret CEO, the woman who played her husband at his own game. My face was on magazine covers, my voice on morning talk shows, my inbox exploding with invitations and threats dressed as admiration. "Mason?" He went dark. His assets froze, his firm collapsed, and the financial world whispered his name like it was cursed. The SEC wanted answers, the investors wanted blood, and I just wanted peace. But peace doesn't visit women who've burned kingdoms. A week after the reveal, I woke up to find a single red rose on my marble kitchen island. No note, no vase, just dew and silence. The security footage showed nothing. No intruder, no glitch. I brushed it off. Rich people attract weird admirers. But deep down, something itched. Cassidy noticed it too. "You sure you're sleeping okay?" she asked one afternoon at the Orion penthouse office, the one with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan. "I'm fine," I lied. "Just readjusting." She studied me like she knew I wasn't. Cassidy had been with me since the early days, when Orion was just an idea built in coffee shops and quiet fury. She was the only person who knew everything. Or so I thought. Mason called that night. His name flashed on my phone like a ghost I hadn't buried deep enough. Against my better judgment, I answered. "You ruined me," he said. His voice was hoarse, broken, stripped of arrogance. You ruined yourself. You think this makes you clean? You're just as bad as me. Maybe worse, because I'm better at it. He laughed, a sound I hadn't heard sober in years. Enjoy it while it lasts, Laura. You don't even know who's coming for you. Then the line went dead. I stared at the city lights beyond the glass. His words stuck. You don't even know who's coming for you. 2 days later, during a board meeting, Cassidy handed me a file. We have a problem, she said. Inside were financial traces, offshore accounts under Orion's umbrella, but not created by me. Massive transfers, ghost subsidiaries, someone mimicking my structure. Who's authorizing these? I asked. She frowned. That's the thing. The approvals match your signature. I froze. My signature was encrypted behind biometric locks, impossible to forge. Unless someone had access. Someone close. I locked all accounts, she said. Already done. Find out who's behind it. I will, but Laura, if this gets out, it could tank your credibility. That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked the penthouse barefoot, the city glowing below like fireflies in glass. The silence was heavy until a soft ping came from my laptop. An encrypted message appeared on my private Orion line, one no one knew existed. You built this empire on lies. I'm just taking back what was stolen. See you in Paris. No signature, just coordinates. I stared at the screen, pulse hammering. The location, Paris, was the same one Mason had mentioned in his call 2 nights ago. Cassidy and I flew out the next day. Paris had always been my refuge. My father had taught me business in the same city where I had learned heartbreak. But this time it felt haunted. The Ritz had arranged the presidential suite for me. Crystal chandeliers, white orchids, and a skyline view that could make a sinner pray. Still, the air felt wrong. Cassidy set up her laptop at the mahogany desk. Whoever's behind this knows your systems better than anyone, she said. They've cloned your identity. That narrows it down, I said, to maybe 2 people on the planet. She looked at me, and one of them's me. I didn't answer. That night, I went to a dinner arranged by one of Orion's European investors. I almost didn't go, but the RSVP had come attached to an unsigned message. If you want to know who's bleeding you, come alone. The restaurant was one of those hidden Parisian gems. Private, dimly lit, music soft enough to drown your heartbeat. I walked in, every eye turning. My dress was navy silk, understated power. I was ready for an ambush in heels. Then I saw him, Mason, sitting at the back, candlelight flickering against his smirk. You've got nerve, I said, sliding into the seat opposite him. You always did like a show, he said. Order something nice. You can afford it. I thought you were in hiding. I was, until someone offered me redemption. Who? He leaned forward, his eyes sharp. Your partner. I stiffened. Cassidy? He smiled. You really thought she'd stay loyal forever? After all, she helped build Orion. You just kept her in your shadow. My heart thudded once, hard. You're lying. He shrugged. Maybe. Or maybe she realized you don't share power, only credit. The waiter came, broke the tension with French pleasantries, poured wine I didn't touch. Mason sipped his like it was blood. She's been feeding me everything. Your passwords, your plans, your next acquisitions. We're building something new, Lara, without you. I laughed. You? You can't even build trust, let alone a company. He grinned. That's why I have her. I stood up. You always need a woman to carry your mistakes. He raised his glass. And you always need revenge to feel alive. When I left that restaurant, I wasn't sure who I hated more, him or myself for not seeing this coming. Back at the hotel, Cassidy was waiting by the window, her face unreadable. You met him, she said. So it's true, I whispered. She turned, eyes glinting. You built Arion on secrets, Laura. Did you really think you could hide forever? I protected us. You protected yourself. I gave you everything. You gave me orders. She stepped closer, voice soft but lethal. You can't own people, Laura. You can only own power. And right now, it's not yours anymore. Before I could react, she dropped a flash drive on the table. Inside that, she said, are your next 24 hours. Every offshore transfer, every account I've rerouted, every lie catching up to you. You're out of your mind, I said. No, she smiled. I'm out of your shadow. She walked out, just like that. By dawn, Arion's European accounts were frozen. Headlines screamed, Arion under investigation for fraud. CEO Laura Hart implicated. The board wanted answers. The world wanted a villain. Mason wanted revenge. And Cassidy, she wanted the crown. I was back in my suite when another message appeared on my laptop. I told you you didn't know who was coming, Laura. See you at the fall, M. He'd signed it this time and attached a live stream link. I clicked it. Mason and Cassidy standing in front of a press wall in London, cameras flashing, smiles rehearsed. Cassidy stepped forward to the mic. As of today, Mason Hart and I will be co-heading a new global venture, Hardian Industries, formed to correct the corruption inside Arion. My name appeared behind them on a giant screen, under a headline that read, Disgraced CEO faces charges. For a moment, I just stood there, the screen's light reflecting off the wine glass in my hand. Then I whispered to myself, You really want war? Let's make it global. They took my empire. They thought I'd disappear. But they forgot one thing. I don't break. I rebuild. And this time, I'm not playing business. I'm playing blood. You ever hit that point where revenge doesn't feel like anger anymore, just focus? That's where I was. Cold, sharp, dead calm. They'd taken everything. My company, my credibility, my name. And now I was gonna take their world. Not fast, not loud, precise, surgical. 3 days after Cassidy and Mason's press stunt, I walked into the office of my old attorney, Blake Sanders. He was ex-FBI, slick gray hair, suit sharp enough to cut a lie in half. You're radioactive, he said, scanning the headlines on his tablet. Everyone thinks you cooked the books. Let them, I said, crossing my legs. I just need access to the old Orion servers and clearance to go nuclear. He raised a brow. You mean illegal? I mean inevitable. He smirked. Damn, I forgot how scary you are when you're calm. Flattery later, I said. I've got 48 hours before they make their IPO announcement. I want Harshen to burn before it opens. Blake leaned back. You'll need leverage. Oh, I've got that. I slid him a file. Photos, recordings, wire transfers. Mason been laundering money through shell companies under Cassidy's name. He set her up while she thought she was setting me up. His grin spread slow. Classic double cross. Yeah, and I'm gonna light both sides of that fuse. That night, I set up in my safe house, a minimalist glass box in the Hollywood Hills, all tech and silence. My fingers flew over the keyboard like they'd been waiting for this day. I built a ghost system under an old Orion alias, codename Icarus, to infiltrate Harshen's cloud. Every beep of the monitor was a heartbeat. Every file I pulled was a weapon. By 3 a.m., I found it. Harshen's prototype list.
They'd stolen Orion's AI portfolio, rebranded it, and were prepping to sell it as their own. My code, my architecture, my baby, and they thought I'd be too broken to fight back. Cute. I called Blake. I've got what I need. What's the plan? Simple. We leak the truth during their global broadcast right when they announce their new empire. You want it public? Oh, I want it biblical. The next morning, Paris time, Harshan Industries held their launch gala. Cassidy wore power red, Mason his usual smug grin. I watched the live stream from a private jet slicing through the clouds, champagne untouched beside me. The press roared, cameras flashed.
The screen behind Cassidy flickered. Mason frowned. The feed glitched once, twice, and then suddenly their own data burst across the massive display. Wire transfers, secret emails, fraud charts, Mason's name, Cassidy's signature. A whisper ran through the crowd, then gasps, then chaos. Cassidy turned pale. What the hell? Mason grabbed her arm. Cut the feed! Too late. The world was already watching. Every news network was streaming it live. I leaned back in my seat, whispering to myself, checkmate. Blake's voice came through my earpiece. It's done. The SEC just froze their accounts. Arrest warrants inbound. Good, I said. Now let's make it personal. By the time I landed in London, Mason was already spiraling. Cassidy had turned on him, claiming she was manipulated. He was holed up in a penthouse suite, drunk and desperate, and I wanted to look him in the eye when his empire fell. I walked into that suite like a storm in heels. The place smelled like whiskey and fear. He looked up from the couch, eyes bloodshot. Came to gloat, he rasped. No, I said, pouring myself a drink. Came to close. You think you won? I don't think. I know. He laughed bitterly. You leaked everything. Congrats. You're a criminal now.